So what we notice about coaches when they're starting to get results, they can get amazing results, but ultimately it is a mess in what they're doing. That's because what they're doing is all done mentally. It's on the mental plane. It is where they're getting phenomenal results with their clients, but at the same time, there's no way that which is actually expanded out beyond them. And for you to be able to get to 10, 15, 20K months to start off with as a coach, you're already getting your clients results. You're already getting them results. You're already getting them progress. All of these things. The limitation is it just isn't that easy to be able to scale beyond you. This is why we have this model which we call the intellectual property levels model. And how this plays out is understanding that we have our different senses. We have sight, we have sound, we have taste, we have touch, and we have smell. Sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. Now you can see further than you can hear the sound. You can smell further than you can touch, and you can touch or feel, and you can feel further than you can taste. What we're looking at here is when we're working with people, when we're supporting people, one of the core things that we want to look at is how much safety we're creating for them. Now, if we can see further than all of our other senses, then seeing is the first thing that will either activate someone into a stress response or take them out of a stress response. And this is what we really want to look at to be able to bridge this gap between it only being this mental thing and it being visual. Because when we turn it into a visual, it becomes a model, and it takes things from being mental to tangible. Because when it's only in our head, then it's this intangible thing that starts to play out. When we can create this tangibility for it, people can get a grasp on it. If it is intangible, we can't see it, and it becomes very difficult for us to be able to start to create those shifts. So we're utilizing how our senses already operate. And again, you can get amazing results on a foundational level, say 15K months, without a model. This is the thing. You can get good results to start off with, and at the same time, for you to be able to scale the size of the groups that you're working with, for you to be able to scale the depth at which you take clients, we want to be able to create a deeper sense of safety. And we can create that safety by bringing in the visual aspect of what we're doing, just like we're doing here. Now, beyond that, we actually start to go beyond creating a visual model. And for us to be able to do that, we need to be able to look at all of the things and how they're connected. Because when we look at how all of these things are connected, then it goes from being a model to a method. Now, you already have a method for what you're already doing. It's just that it is not created visually in many instances. You already do that in your head. That's why we're looking at this mental capacity of what plays out and how we can actually start to shift that. Because the primary distinction between a model and a method is that connection piece, but it is also relational, meaning how do each of the pillars relate to each other? Now, how this plays out in a context is, well, if we're looking at the model that we're talking about now, there's a certain relationship between the variables that we're talking about. There's a certain relationship in how they relate. And when we're creating a visual model like this, it is really starting to highlight to us how we can actually start to expand out our capacity to be able to serve, our capacity to be able to grow our income, because this is ultimately the growth, because these are the core things that start to play out at this common level that people struggle at between 15 and 50K months, because you're already getting results. It's how we actually take those results to the next level. But what we notice is there's the higher level than that then, isn't there? We've gone from a mess being only mental, we've gone to a model which is visual and then becomes tangible so that people can get a handle on it. And then we go into how it's actually connected and the relationship between the variables that are playing out to be able to create a cohesive method to be able to go beyond that. We have that higher level, right? So what is that highest level? Well, when we look at this, if we've gone from visual to connected to inclusive to connected, then we're looking at a model which is inclusive. Now, this is an example right here of a model which is inclusive, because what's occurring is we're building each layer upon itself. We're starting to expand out the different layers that we start to look at, because what it needs to be at this level is an integral experience. Integral meaning that it will transcend and include all of the levels below it. Now you can start to see how this plays out in the experience that we're talking about, because yes, we still have the mental aspect as we build out a model, and then we add in the visual aspect, and then we start to create the connection between all of the variables as part of it. Then we start to create the inclusive aspect of that. All of the levels transcend and include all of the levels below. This is what integral means. And when we can start to create access to that, we can really start to create shifts in the world and expand our capacity to be able to influence at speed and impact at scale. And at this highest level, we go from it being a mess and still getting results, and then creating this visual model that we create, and then a method or methodology which is unique to us, which is like your signature system, to going to that highest level up here, which is what we call modality. Now, a modality is where it's your unique mechanism, the thing that you've created to be able to create this most dramatic shift in people, in transformation in people. It is your secret sauce. And when we start to look at this, we use different models for how each of these things play out. At the bottom, we're actually missing that visual aspect. So we start to bring in that visual aspect by using a wedge model as an example for a model. That's the foundational level we start to look at. In a method, we go to a star model because it's your guiding star to be able to refer back to for you to move forward when you have that guiding star or that compass to move you forward. In a modality, we actually utilize a guiding star, but we also have the inclusivity aspect of that, where it actually starts to have all of these other little models around it. So we're utilizing this depth of a map to be able to move people faster. And it's this inclusive aspect where we can actually have all of these different maps for different things. If we think back to before GPS days, we used to have one map for the next thing. We'd have those books of maps that would go through, which is what we're really looking at creating when we're creating a modality. We're creating a book of maps, all of these different maps, so that we can fast track our way through it. Because if we don't have a map, we might be able to get to the destination. And if we've been there before, we can get to the destination, which is what's playing out with this mental aspect over here. It's all about us then when it's about that, and it's also limited. Whereas if we can create this modality up here, what that creates is, it creates this system, it creates your signature system for how we can actually start to get amazing results for people. And that just allows other people to be able to utilize your system and expand out your impact. And what that really does is it allows you to scale up your business while also scaling down your time. This is ultimately what we want to look at creating for people when we're understanding where they're at, number one, with the levels of intellectual property. Wherever you're at is perfect, and at the same time, for us to be able to scale up your impact and your influence and your income, we need to look at where you're at and utilize this pathway to be able to move through it so that you can really be the globally renowned coach that you deserve to be. So I hope you got value from this. If you got value, let us know in the comments, and I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway was. See you next time.